All right, Lambert Outdoors here, and today we are going to be trying something new for the pond. Now, for those of you who have been long-term subscribers of my channel, you know that I do have a pond in the back of my property, which we stock it with bass, bluegill, crappie, catfish, and the occasional carp. I've always had an issue with algae and vegetation. I have tried fountains, I have tried homemade DIY fountains. There's a video on that, you can watch that. I've tried pond dyes, which we're still gonna do that because I do think that that does help, because when I don't dye it, the algae bloom is bigger and thicker. So we're gonna be trying something that I saw on another YouTube channel, and that is dissolving my own copper sulfate. Now, copper sulfate basically will kill, it takes the oxygen out of anything it touches or anything that's around. So this is from Seed Ranch, and I did order it from them, and their website is www.seedranch.com. I'll even put that in the description below. You can get yourself there's a wild card coupon code of 777 for you. You can steal that. But they did send me a thank you card in the mail as well. But pest control, snails and slugs, so it'll kill that. It's a pond cleaner, algae and mosquito larvae, which I do have a mosquito problem back here. Natural fungicide, mildew, antiseptic, household germs, organic borax mix, blight, apple scab, leaf curl, etc. I did not know that. Kills roots clogging septic tanks, so you can flush it down the toilet if you want. If you live on a septic, don't flush it down the toilet if you live in a city. Wood and canvas preservations, because it prevents dry rot. Rate of use for pipeline systems, toilets, 1 cup down the drain every 2 weeks, 2 cups per month. Did not know that. This is 99.9% copper sulfate penthydrate. This is 10 pounds. So if you go to the big box store and they have a 15-pound jug of that, you'll see when you read it, it's not pure copper sulfate, and it's not this blue. You can see how blue this is? It's like the color of a blue bucket back there. This is really, really dark blue. So how we are going to dissolve this ourselves, so you could throw this in the pond, okay? But then eventually stuff is gonna cover that whatever granule. So this is like the little pebbles that you see at the bottom of fish tanks. Eventually mud is going to go over top of this and basically seal it in. In my case, clay, because it's very high clay out here. So this is gonna sink down in the clay is going to encapsulate it, it's gonna become ineffective. You can reuse this over and over again, and I'm gonna show you how we're going to do that right now. All right, so I do have a gallon of water here, which that's just rainwater. I'm not using any fancy water. About a cup, cut off the bottom of the water bottle. Of the copper sulfate, and it should start to dye it blue. When the water's all blue, that is when I'm gonna put it in a sprayer, and I'm gonna spray it as far as I can get out in the pond, because the moss is already about 4 to 5 feet out from the edges. So all of that is gonna get sprayed by this liquid. Now the pebbles, which are in here, you could just leave them in there and add more water and use it over and over again. Use the same container over and over again, because the pellets won't completely dissolve in water alone. What they're doing is dissolving, like 60% of them will dissolve. But you could just add a little bit more pellets every now and then, and go from there. So I'm gonna let that sit for a little bit, and you'll see the water. I'm gonna make another one of these up while that's happening. So this is gonna be a close-up view of the actual crystals. They're just like little pieces of gravel that are blue, basically. Little ice-shaped pieces of gravel. Okay, so we have mixed them up, both of them, and you can already see the water is starting to turn blue. Now what I'm gonna do now is let that sit for 24 hours. And then after 24 hours, and then I'm going to transfer this, the liquid, to my sprayer and spray the pond. So that should be the step that you see next. All right, it has been 24 hours. It's probably about the same blue color as it was yesterday. There is still a bunch of the granules in the bottles. So what we're going to use is a little mesh screen here, and we're going to fill up a sprayer, and then we're going to spray the algae and stuff like that. So I'll probably show you once it's in the sprayer. All right, so I got my mesh screen here. And the only reason why I'm using a mesh screen is because I don't want as much of the copper sulfate as possible, the actual pellets. I don't want them in the container because they're not going to fully dissolve. None of them came out, which is good because you can see how many are left. So it did actually dissolve more than I actually thought it would, but you can see. So basically what we'll do is we're going to add more copper sulfate to this, probably another cup, half a cup, 3/4 of a cup, and then we'll fill this back up with water. This will be ready to use again. Now that's 1 gallon, so we're actually just going to use that today and see how long that gets us, so that way we know, will that do the whole pond? I don't know yet, so let's see.